Central bank digital currencies, the pros and cons. Now, we've heard a lot about central bank digital currencies in the media over the last couple of years. We've had the leaders of the G7, Rishi Sunak in particular, a couple of years back, stating that central bank digital currencies are essentially coming to all G7 nations. And we're seeing other countries around the world in several pilot schemes along the way. But central bank digital currencies, as well as opening up a lot of opportunities, potentially have their problems. So what do I foresee first as the pros of central bank digital currencies? I think anyone that spends off the state, i.e. they're getting benefits, i.e. they are receiving money from the taxpayer to basically fund their life, should be done through a central bank digital currency. Why, you ask? A central bank digital currency can essentially be what's called programmable. Now, programmable central bank digital currencies basically mean that it isn't money per se. It is a digital asset which you can purchase certain things with. Now, it might be that it's programmable and you can purchase everything, but it might also be programmable in a way which says you can only spend a certain amount of money on this. Now, what does this stop? This stops people that are taking money from the state and purchasing things that aren't beneficial for the people. So, for example, someone could take taxpayers' money and spend their entire monthly money on alcohol. Now, if someone receives, let's say, $1,000 in a month and they spend that entire amount of money on alcohol, do you think that that is productive to society? Of course not. The debate, though, is whereas, well, it's my money, then I should be able to spend it on whatever I want to spend it on. But it's not your money. It's taxpayers' money. So for me, central bank digital currencies have that element which is positive for it. Secondly, the second benefit I see is the data that can be collected. Now, this can be looked as a pro and a con, but let's look at the pro first. Central bank digital currencies can collect and find where you are spending your money, what you're using that money for, and then additionally from that, they can then take that data into the system to understand where people potentially are purchasing in a way which is negatively affecting society, in the way that it potentially could be funding, where it means it's causing pressure on other funding elements of a society. For example, we know if someone is sat there eating fast food every day, it's going to eventually put a pressure on the National Health Service. Okay, makes sense as well. We know if someone's obese, they're more likely to cause a pressure on funding of other elements within society. Again, this only works if people are taking off of the state. So if people are taking off of the state, they're taking money from the state, then in theory, the state should work as efficiently as possible for the public, ensuring that the people that are taking money from the state aren't taking money from the state and spending it in a way which is negative for the rest of the public that essentially is paying for them. Perfect. They are the pros. Cons. The cons is it could actually bring in a totalitarian society where the government essentially could control everything, including the money it's spent, and say, actually, we don't want you spending on this, so we're going to stop you from spending this. You haven't got your latest government piece of paper done. We are not going to let you spend on this. It brings in all sorts of elements with social credit scores. If social credit scores come in and say, oh, you've got a poor social credit score, so you can't pay on this. Now, the argument goes back to is if it's just for the people that are spending in society off the state, then fine. But what we're seeing also is in this period of time is that governments are trying to buy up, or governments, or what's called private-public partnerships, which essentially the massive corporations trying to buy up the things that people are going to spend their money on, i.e. housing, farming, heating, so on and so forth. So they're all controlled, and therefore there isn't this free open market where the majority of people can go out and earn their own money, because the government then has more control. The government then has more control. More people then become reliant on the state, and then therefore the pro in the beginning of more people relying on the state means, well, if everyone's reliant on the state, that means the government tells everyone what to do. So what I foresee with the central bank digital currency element is there has to be, if these rules, if it's brought into place, things are put into place where it can't get to a point where we're living in this almost fascist society where you've got this public and private sector controlling everything with a small amount of companies, meaning that people can't go out and own their own money, and therefore are reliant on the state and reliant on the income on the state, and then they can decide what to do. So the key thing is central bank digital currencies could be used for a really good thing for the betterment of humanity and the betterment of society, providing that the government can't take advantage through society to a point where everyone's reliant on them. I would love to know your thoughts in the comments. Hope this helps.